Hi, and welcome to another amazing session we'll have here at Black Tie Lounge. Thank you all for joining us again this evening, wherever you're joining us from. As always, we have some amazing guests to chat to tonight from NatriumX Fund. What we'll do is we'll go through and we'll offer Dylan and Colin a few questions that we'll run through. As always, we'll have our Q&A at the end, so keep a note of your questions. Now, Dylan and Colin, firstly, a warm welcome tonight, and thank you for making the time to join us.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
No, absolute pleasure. As the team will know, we've been working with NatriumX now for the last 3 months. It's a very exciting opportunity, and tonight is all about sharing the ins and outs and why it makes it such an exciting opportunity. So Dylan, maybe if you can talk first and just introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your background and what you're doing here at Natrium.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you for having me on tonight, Caroline. So hope everyone's doing well out there. So my background, I come from a mining, energy and resource background. I spent about 20 years in that industry across engineering roles and leadership roles, and eventually into merger and acquisition roles as well. And about 5-6 years to go, decided I was running hard for someone else, and so had my midlife crisis, shall you say, and stepped away. And I've been doing some property development, and that's the main thing. And I do a fair bit of coaching and business and mindset and performance, and some business coaching as well. So that's a little bit about what I've been doing, and more recently. And as we're going to unpack tonight, I came across an opportunity in energy, in batteries, and it's something like I haven't seen before. I've seen a lot of different business models. I've seen a lot of things, and so I'm here to talk about that tonight. But yeah, it's a little bit about where I'm coming from.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And as I said, we'll drill down on that exact opportunity. No one explains it better than Dylan, but introducing Colin, who some of you might know. So Colin is actually an investment manager that is working with the team here at Natrium as well. Now, Colin, tell me what attracted you to Natrium and what is your role and what's happening over there at the moment?
Yeah, so I met with Dylan. He mentioned the opportunity that he was handling at the moment. And we suggested setting up a tokenized investment fund. For you guys, he loved the idea of that, and that's how he formed Natrium. And the branding of it focuses on the purpose of what Dylan's doing with sodium-based energy. And yeah, prior to this, we were helping other people set up funds, and we've set up our own as well.
Yeah, fantastic. No, it's good to have you back again. Dylan, so I'm going to hit you with the hardest first, because most people are going to say, what is sodium ion and why?
Good. Great question. And I can tell you I've been on a massive education myself. So full disclosure, I am not the battery expert, but far out, I've come a long way. So one thing I've learnt, and I have played in the energy sector for some time over the years, but the sodium ion technology is around battery technology. And so the dominant technology that everyone would know about out there is lithium batteries. They are by far away the leader in batteries at the moment out there. Sodium ion batteries have been around for a long time, but harder to commercialize till recently. So they are an emerging technology, and in the last couple of years, in the last 5 years, but they've really come ahead in leaps and bounds. And in an area where you think about lithium, it's a scarce resource. You think about sodium ion batteries, it's salt essentially. So there's an abundance of salt out there. These batteries are a completely recycled battery. They do offer some other opportunities in relation to lithium, and we can talk about the benefits later. But yeah, this surrounds batteries, and at the moment our focus is around energy solutions. And the more I look into that, and the more we do use like these computers and the data centers, electricity is becoming more and more in demand, and networks across the globe are struggling to keep up. And so batteries are part of that solution, as well as all the renewables that are out there at the moment, as a lot of countries transition out of coal-fired power plants into renewable technology, which needs batteries.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's just battery is king really right now. We're seeing a lot of that in the market. So, and, I guess the market's under a lot of pressure to move to a better solution for batteries. Is that, how's the timing right now? Like, what's it been? Why is the shift in this? What makes the timing right? Like, what's happened in the last 12 to 24 months that's really pushing on, the sodium ion?
Yeah, you've got a number of players out there now. CATL, probably one of the biggest. There is a lot of battery manufacturers starting to step into this space. What's making it right for now is the technology and the chemistry within the batteries has been solved by a few battery engineering companies out there. So that creates the opportunity. Governed with that at the moment, there is a lot of especially in different countries, there is a lot of political landscape around the lithium batteries right now, with even modern slavery and how the lithium is procured, but also where it comes from, and starting to be taxes on those things. And when you finish, these are some of the things people wouldn't understand, but when you use a battery and it's finished, you've actually got to dispose of a lithium battery, and that can be sometimes more than the cost of the actual battery. So there's a number of things that open up when you look at sodium ion, and they haven't solved everything, but the right applications, and particularly around battery storage, you have a battery that is recyclable, it's quiet, and safety specifications. Overlay that at the moment, the certification requirements to actually have these battery parks and batteries installed in, whether it's in your home, whether it's in your business, whether it's as a battery park. There is a growing thing, and in Europe in particular, they've just brought into place a battery passport. So taking that governance to another level for batteries, and what we're focused on is one of the batteries that has all those certifications and passport, and is, as far as we know, is the first westernized sodium ion battery to be in that space. So we bring an advantage with compliance and safety and sustainability.
Yeah, and I guess that comes back to, the next question I was thinking of asking, competitive advantage. Where does this position you in the Australian or South Pacific sector, the European sector? Like, where is this sitting with you guys now? Because I know it's, it's basically pretty new technology for Australia. So you must have a huge competitive advantage after all your experience that you've had offshore.
Yeah, it's been a case of where do you pick your focus, and we can focus everywhere, but we've deliberately chosen to narrow our focus, and we have two sort of beachheads at this stage in Australia, which will be a smaller scale, but Europe was a pretty big market for us. They're very clean, green over there, and we are focused in on Denmark at the moment, and into Europe. But there's a massive opportunity through there. Governments are I've had people on the ground over there for the last 8 months in a team, and to a stage where there is a lot of government support, and there will be in Australia as well, but there's massive support for these batteries. And so sodium ion batteries, they're actually a little bit heavier than lithium batteries. So there's a couple of benefits here is that sodium doesn't catch on fire nowhere near as much as a thermal runaway risk for lithium. So that is something that we have an advantage around. And the other advantage, it looks like, with sodium is longer life cycles. So batteries will last longer. They require less cooling because of the thermal runaway risk. And so there's a bunch of things like that. Where we're focusing to play is in large battery parks initially, where the size of the battery doesn't necessarily matter, but the performance does. And the performance, from what we've tested at the moment, is there and surpasses a lot of the other lithium batteries in that containerized world, which is where we're choosing to focus initially. And I see that as a real opportunity and a place where we can test and validate. So we're not trying to be all batteries. Lithium's still got a space out there. We're not trying to be the automotive thing. That's down the track, but we're not trying to be those things now. We've got a niche market, and that's it. And obviously there's residential and commercial that this will fit in as well. But yeah, the opportunity, it's everywhere, the opportunity for this, but it's strategically we are focused on bringing this into Europe, and we'll start small into Australia as well.
Fabulous. Now, Colin, I know you are a lover of a diversified fund, and Natrium, has structured itself, to be commercially diverse. Can you fill us in, why the fund team took that structured setup and why it's so important?
Yeah, sure. So one of the key reasons for choosing diversification is to help buffer the risk for the investor while also producing the opportunity for what we're investing into. And the idea there is that with the gold investment and the debt investment, that'll bring in the short-term growth and the short-term revenue for the token fund. And then the investment into the properties associated with NatriumX and the sodium-based factories will bring in the long-term growth, and the venture capital aspect of acquiring the businesses will fall in line with that too. So whilst the land and the venture capital will bring in income in the long term, the gold and the debt will bring in the short-term revenue for the token payouts on there. It's also there to buffer the risk in case something unexpected happens.
Yeah, look, it's a great strategy because, it's about insulation and protecting the investors as well as providing that return. So, you're putting an extra layer of protection with a diversification there. So, I say you're a lover, but I love a diversified fund as well because, I think in this market, you just can't be a single, even a multi-stream. You have to be very well protected because the only constant is change, right?
And one of the aspects of this opportunity is there's a lot more opportunities arising. So we might find there's a sudden change in the market focus with the batteries or with the projects.
Yeah.
With this structure that gives us the ability to maneuver where needed.
Yeah, it's great. It's good. So we're going to tackle the projects that are in the IM. So I'm going to do a lucky dip as to who wants to answer these questions. So obviously they're real projects. Maybe Dylan first, if you can tell us a little bit about Armstrong Creek.
Yeah, so Armstrong Creek is a acreage development, and it was initially a 15-lot subdivision, and it's surrounded by a national park, outskirts of Brisbane, so quite a picturesque site. The completion of that is now targeted to high-end sustainable homes and potentially off the grid as well. So that is that project. It's a gated community, and so I'm excited to continue that project. Then we actually have a project, a business park in Warwick, which is that's nearing the first two stages are actually nearing completion, subdivision, and close to title. So we transition into a future stage. Why this one? This one we are planning to put a battery park on as well. So it's a subdivision. It's got some residential and commercial developments to go in it still, but also will actually have a battery park and a income stream coming from that as well. So it fits in with what we're doing here.
Yep.
We moved to we've got a identified complex in Ormo that we are proposing to put it's a commercial where we're proposing we'll put a small pilot plant for R&D for the batteries. So we've got a next generation battery that requires about 2 years of testing and certification, and that's where we want to get that continue up. So that's there, and then we have some opportunities in Denmark, and those may change. At the moment, we've got a letter of intent on one of those, which we can lease. But as we go down this path, we're actually the further we get down the path, the more likely it is that this land will be offered to us just as incentives to get us into the region. So that's a bit of a changing landscape, that one at the moment. But we've got a parcel of land in the port of Aalborg where we can place a battery park. Up to an 800 megawatt battery park. We plan to do that with a small 100 megawatt battery park. There's some of the key opportunities at the moment. Outside of the actual projects, the main projects that we'll be looking at is also the 3 stages of the battery itself. So the first stage is, there's an R&D stage, but we do have we've got a commercial stage as well. So it's a integrated approach. We have a manufacturing opportunity, a distribution opportunity, and then buying the batteries back as a trading. And maybe we can talk a little bit more about that separately, but that's the sort of the 3 elements of the, I would say that's the major project in all this is the sodium ion batteries and that platform.
Yeah. Now, Colin, the fund has a set target investment of rate of return for investors. Can you talk a little bit about what is that return, and then how the fund is going to achieve that return? I mean, I understand a lot of the projects that are in place are likely going to be better performing, but obviously as a fund you have a target return. Can you just share a little bit about that and talk about how the investors will get their return, for instance, over the next 5 years?
Yeah, sure. So our target return is 14% per annum for investors, and that'll be generated through, in the short term, that'll be generated through the gold trading and the debt issuing on that, the secured debt. But in the long term, so second year onwards, it would be from the formation and returns generated from the businesses and projects that we're investing into that relate to the sodium-based energy. And when you look at the spreadsheets and the calculations of what could be brought in the next few years, 14% is quite achievable with that.
Yes, I would agree to that. Obviously, we've seen some of the plans that you've been working on. Now, Australia has a large renewable asset resources. I mean, Dylan, you would know from your mining background. Can Australia become a global leader in sodium ion manufacturing and energy storage?
I think we can become a leader of developing technology out there. So we're not necessarily trying to be a leader of sodium ion manufacturing in Australia. I mean, context-wise, we are quite a small market compared to some of the other places that are out there. But I see us as certainly putting us on the map even more around the development of technology and working with some of the universities here as well. We've got some very good universities in Australia that are sort of leading this space. So we've got relationships within Australia, but also in Denmark. But there's certainly, I see a big opportunity to be one of the players for bringing technology to the market.
Yeah, fantastic. So the other thing that I think the investors or everyone listening here would love to know, how do you get recurring revenue from energy storage systems? So how does the program work? I mean, we all know they store the energy, but how do they work to get your revenues back into the fund?
Yeah, it's a great question. I might actually just give a little bit of context here. So I used to be part of managing a power station complex from a mining perspective, and that power station used to make 90% of its revenue in 10% of the year. And electricity prices, when you break it down to, when it gets to our house, we pay a consistent rate, but it's like a spot market. So electricity goes up and down all the time, and it's actually fairly predictable, where during the day when there's less draw, and it's a supply and demand equation. So quite often during the day, electricity is quite cheap, and at night time, when like home, when everyone's tuned in and watching us right now, Caroline, electricity is the demand is up, and that pushes the prices up. So the concept is an arbitrage one, where you are essentially storing electricity and procuring electricity at a very low cost during out of peak periods, and then in peak periods, when the electricity prices goes up, you are selling back into the grid. And so that's how you make it. But it's also it really is a thing. It's started to become something in Australia. We do a little bit of it, but this is quite a big thing in Europe at the moment, where they have a lot of pressure on the electricity network, and so it's a very big evolving industry that's just going to grow a lot over the next 5 years and beyond.
Yeah. So obviously, when we're talking about Europe, obviously the flagship project at the moment is the Denmark one. Can you maybe share a little bit about why that project was chosen, and what's the specific opportunity around that project for the fund?
Yeah, so we started with Denmark as a potential beachhead. We identified it was Europe was a big market, and so the Denmark opportunity is Denmark, but it's more about Europe. Denmark's a trusted company. It's got good ports. It's got good ports. There is a few other countries we've really considered, and but this one looks to be where the let's just say we've got government support, and there's a lot of red carpet that's laid the platform here from government, industry, and also location of port and into other countries. So it's a trusted country, a trusted brand to roll out, and there's a stepping stone into Scandinavia and Europe and beyond. Will we do everything there? We might look at other things, but certainly we are, I would say, heading towards at least doing an assembly plant in Denmark and Aalborg, and rolling further out from there.
Sure. And does the assembly plant and things for a lot of our listeners here would be Australian, so do you get government support, in relation to rolling out these type of opportunities?
Yeah, so we've got some already, but there's still more support to come. So we are in final. Let's just say the final things of working out all those strategic partnerships. We've got consultants on the ground helping us with those government grants, the rebates, all those sort of things ahead of us at the moment. But there's a lot of countries over there that want this technology, and they want it done in their country. So Denmark is a leader at the moment, but we're not going to, and it's the front runner. But you never know. There might be something else there. We'll be strategic and considered about this before we are completely jumping in. We know there's going to be projects in Denmark. We're committed to putting containerized battery parks there. Outside of that, we plan to do stuff with assembly plants and even a cell plant in there. But that will require further consultation with battery partner and also government to make sure we're getting the right fiscal and monetary support as well.
Yeah, I understand. Colin, talk to us a little bit about the risk management. So obviously emerging technologies can be exciting, but there's more risk there that you need to manage. So I know with diversification is one of them, but tell us a bit more about how you're managing that risk with the defensive assets and things like that.
Yeah, no worries. So risk is risk has been, we make sure that we assess all the business aspects before we commit to them. But one of the really good things that Dylan has done with managing the risk is he's managed to get commitments from other parties already who are willing to purchase from the projects that we invest into, so or take on initiatives for us to do the work for them. So this shows that there's actually a big demand for what we're doing, and it's not all imaginary. And we're talking about big bodies here, which I'll leave Dylan to explain to you. But the fact that they're willing to commit to such a sizable contract before the fund is even completed shows the opportunity and the demand for this. Did you want to elaborate on that?
Yeah, I suppose it's everything's got risk, right? Nothing is risk-free, and I'm not here to say that there isn't risk. Our job is to mitigate it, and what we have here at the moment is, well, firstly, different countries present risks. So first one is strategic partners, making sure we're not trying to start from ground zero. We're starting with capability and people in those areas already. So we've got a bunch of consultants who have been in the industry, in the electricity game for a long time already. So we're engaging specialists over there, that's engineers and other things like that. But then it's also a case of understanding we've got a pipeline of projects over there that we're working through at the moment. And some of those projects, when we lock those things in and there's a bunch of things that will align and we'll lock things in, and then we'll act on those commitments. So in that sort of way, yes, there's risk, but we're taking the commitments on the way through. There'll be deposits for those things, so that it's a considered approach, staged with financial commitments on the way through from the end users.
No, fantastic. That's good to know, and I love how you are working through that. Now we are going to move to Q&A soon. I've got a few more questions to tackle Colin and Dylan with. But if you can prepare your questions, and then we will ask you to add them in, and we'll do our best to answer them for you. Colin, if looking ahead, what would 5 years of success be look like for NatriumX? So, where's the grand plan, I guess, of what you'd like to see happen in the next 5 years?
Our goal is to have this fund NatriumX hit the $1 billion mark by the 5-year mark. We're aiming for 100 million by the 2-year mark. With that, and then when we get to the $1 billion in 5 years, when you look at the amount of demand and supply available, we're sitting in a good position where we can actually reach this target once we've got the right investors on board.
Okay, you're back in 24 months. Is that a deal?
That would be fantastic. The sooner the better with that.
The sooner the better. And Dylan, what does it look like for you? Because we know Colin's a money man, right? So tell me what it looks like for you.
Yeah, look, the short term is about consolidating strategic partnerships, and stay tuned for some announcements on that. But the longer term for me is an enduring platform that's been part of this sector, and ultimately the funds stood the test of time and has profited from being part of this, what is a pretty exciting opportunity. I really think this is we've uncovered something here that's a very, very promising market, and I see some promising returns and some happy investors out the other side who are glad they made the decision to come on the journey with us.
Yeah, I think it's great. No, well, I've really appreciated you answering these questions tonight. And if any questions are available, then here they are. They're coming up now. So for Colin and Dylan, I'm happy if you guys decide who's going to answer these. But I guess what gives NatriumX the edge against the larger battery companies? So
really good question. We're not trying to, the battery market is massive, right? We're trying to we'll get a slice of the pie. What gives us the edge right now is the certification we have, and we genuinely believe we've got an edge in our battery life. and performance than lithium. And the political landscape around lithium at the moment is supportive of sodium-ion batteries stepping into that area. But we generally think we're one of the first movers out there with a tested product, so that gives us an edge right now on sustainability and performance. It also opens up opportunities in larger in data warehouses and things like that where lithium don't support. But make no mistake, there'll be other suppliers out there. The major one is CATL. It's Chinese and will be a non-Chinese battery, which is also sought after. So, but I do believe we're one of the first out there. So, well positioned to get a slice of the pie, which is what we're modelling.
Yeah, fantastic. Okay, a couple of others here coming through. So just like most things, supply and demand is a key driver in electricity market. So being able to battery farm is a great opportunity.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. And the numbers are very exciting for where they are right now, and a good sort of for a fund like this, present a good opportunity for cash flow to come back into the fund.
Yeah, are you able to deep dive or, just share a bit of an overview about any of those, I guess, numbers that are coming through in everything that you're looking at?
Yeah, so in terms of the battery park, so it really depends on where the electricity prices stay over time. So these batteries that we're modelling, we are modelling that they'll sit in containers there for up to 15 years, cycling each day and producing income each day. So the payback on these batteries, depending on what country you're in, is somewhere between 1.5 and 3 years, and these things will last, for somewhere between 10 and 15 years. The technology may replace them and you'll go again, but when you have a payback that quickly, it does generate some pretty good cash flows.
Yeah. So the next question is talking about sodium ion being, how long do you think this tech is going to be new tech? I guess if you look at when lithium batteries came out and now sodium ion, like how long do you think it will be around as new tech batteries?
I think there's still a fair bit of opportunity there now. So sodium ion is there in the residential and the bigger fixed batteries. You're going to see it now transition to the smaller, and I've got no doubt our next generation will be in the automotive space. But I suppose what we are focused on here at the moment is we have a LIM. So NatriumX is an investment platform. It chooses to invest in things. So Langhouse Energy is the platform that we'll initially be investing through, and a big part of that is there's an R&D platform. So you've got to continue to, in any of these technical spaces, you've got to continue to evolve and test and take things to another level. So we're not here saying we've got a battery and this is where we'll be. We'll keep looking for ways to improve that, and not us ourselves, with our strategic partners and things coming through. But I still think there's a fair way to go at the moment. We're right at the cusp of it being commercialised, and so there's not many players out there yet. So there's a lot trying to get into the automotive space. There's hardly any trying to get into the space that we're in at the moment. So I think we've still got a little bit of time ahead of us right now.
Yeah, and just to summarise that, obviously that's a diversified fund. So whilst you're working with the batteries, you've also got property assets, the commercial assets, the other revenue generators, the gold that's in there as well. So, and with your R&D plant on top of it, I guess when sodium ion starts to age out, you're already developing what's the next battery anyway. So It's like a continual cycle. And Colin, correct me if I'm wrong, this is a perpetual fund, correct? So the aim is that it continues on its course for the investors.
Yeah, that's very, very true. It's a perpetual fund which will make the most of the growth over the next few years, the opportunity.
Amazing. So we have another question. I guess, what are the major technical milestones the industry still needs to solve before large-scale adoption of these batteries?
One of them is getting through certification. So there is the battery partner is the first one to have tackled that. In fact, the standards were written for this battery, so that is how fresh some of this is. So we are the first certified. So a large scale adoption there's going to have to be some a lot of other companies follow through in that space. I think the key thing for sodium ion is the density, and this gets technical now, but sodium is more dense than lithium, and so that means the batteries are bigger than what a lithium battery would be. Now, the best application for battery parks, that's not a big impact, but for large scale adoptions in some other aspects, that becomes an issue. So I think the next generation of the sodium batteries, which we will solve that density issue, and we've got some solutions. I think there'll be a lot of take up. So I think in the next 1 to 2 years, this is going to be a very different landscape. You talk about hitting the milestones in 2 years. If I'm back here in 2 years' time, Caroline, I'm sure by then there's actually been a very big uptake in sodium ion batteries.
Yeah, well, we'll definitely have you back, and we love to have our asset managers back in and do a recap of where things are at. So that's the end of our questions. It's been an absolute pleasure, and thank you for making time tonight. And again, we'll see you all soon. And for all the guests, thanks for joining us and listening to the amazing NatriumX team.
Thanks for having us on.
Caroline.
Have a good night. Thanks so much. Bye.
Guys.